video. Today we are going to put the spotlight on the Boston ska-core band Mighty Mighty Bosstones. The Bosstones, I guess they're kind of part of that third wave ska revival or whatever, but they kind of, you know, were around a little bit before that. I mean, I really mainly think of that as being like mid-90s, and they'd been around for a few years before that. But that's when they had their major success, lumped in with all those bands in the mid-90s. Really good band. I think I first discovered them, they were a couple albums into, probably like around 93 or 94, with the song Someday I Suppose. That got a lot of airplay at our local radio station, FM 106.3, that played like alternative stuff and everything. Remember hearing it on there quite a bit, and that's kind of when I got into the band. And then not long after that, they kind of had their big major success. Yeah, seen them live a handful of times. Always been a great show. And we're just gonna kind of whiz through the CDs that I have by the band. They're sort of done now. I think they called it a day a few years ago. They kind of took a hiatus and then regrouped, put out a couple more records, and then just, I think the last one came out in 2021. But then after that, they called it a day as a band. First up, we have Devil's Night Out on Tang Records. I don't know if you remember those guys. I think they used, Tang Records, I think used to have a shop, maybe in San Diego or somewhere down that way, I think. I remember always reading about it, and I just never got around to visiting the shop. Would have been cool. I'm assuming it's not there anymore, but I could be wrong. But yeah, this, you know, Bosstones, they've got that third wave ska sound, kind of. There's also kind of like a hardcore and a punk element to the band, so it's kind of like this mashup of all those sounds. A little bit later, after they have their big success, a little bit later they start to sound a little bit more polished, but this early stuff especially has got more of like a hardcore and kind of a punk sound to it, with the horns and everything. But yeah, pretty good record on this. Do Something Crazy was like the one tune I really love off of this record. Then that was followed up by the Where'd You Go EP. And I remember this might have been the first thing that I picked up by them, but it wasn't this CD. I got it on CD, but the original CD that I got came in like one of those cardboard sleeves. And then I guess, you know, years later I found this in like a jewel case properly, and decided to replace that cardboard sleeve with this. So this has the tune Where'd You Go on it, which was really good. I want to say that they played that. They were like this band in this one scene in the movie Clueless, and I think they played Where You Go in that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they did. But Where'd You Go is really good. Do Something Crazy is on here as well. But the real draw of this for me when I first picked it up, they cover Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith, Enter Sandman by Metallica, and of course Ain't Talking About Love by Van Halen. All pretty cool covers, actually. But yeah, that's the Where'd You Go EP. Then we have More Noise and Other Disturbances, and this is the album that Where'd You Go is on. And another good collection of tunes. Awfully Quiet's really good. He's Back, I really like Bad and Plaid is good, and They Came to Boston's a really cool tune as well. Oh yeah, here's the address for Tang, San Diego. So yeah, I guess that's where that record store was. Again, I'll have to look up after I record this to see if it's still there. Probably should have done that before I hit record, right? Then we get another EP. I remember picking this up, you know, the early 90s, 91, 92 maybe, or 93, I don't know, whatever, this came out. I got it from the BMG record club. This has Someday I Suppose on it, so I'm suppose that's why I picked it up. See what I did there. Think Again, really good. Police Beat, Simmer Down. Yeah, another really good EP. Then, of course, we get the album that Someday I Suppose is on properly, so to say. We get Don't Know How to Party. This come out in 93, 94, 93. So like I said, Someday I Suppose was my real introduction to this band. These other ones I probably picked up after the fact, when I first heard this. But Someday I Suppose is just such an awesome song. Ultimately there'd be something else, but for a long time that was kind of like their signature tune, a really popular one that everybody would go nuts for. I'm trying to look at the rest of this, if there's any other tunes on here that jump out at me, but nothing else really is. But, a good collection of tunes by the band. Then in 94, I remember when this came out, Question the Answers. And this is, they're starting to get a bit more popular. I love this record. This record is great. Kinder Words kicks it off. Hell of a Hat. Pictures to Prove It. Toxic Toast is really awesome. Bronzing the Garbage is really good. Jump Through the Hoops. Yeah, this is just an awesome album. Really love this one. Then we get to the big one, the one we've all been waiting to hear about. Let's Face It. That's what we're talking about. I remember this came out in 97. I remember early 97, I was driving down to Orange County, kind of like doing a trial run to this place. I think it was called Oak Canyon Ranch, because I had tickets. My friends were coming into town. We had tickets to go to this music festival, and it was at this place, I think it was Oak Canyon Ranch, and I kind of wanted to just take like a dry run or a test run or whatever you call it to just see where this place was at, because I wasn't familiar with the area. So I remember driving down from North Hollywood to Orange County, and on the way there I heard like kind of the premiere or whatever you want to call it of The Impression That I Get. And what an amazing song. Just loved it instantly. And I went out and picked up this CD like that week, and just played this nonstop that whole year. This was just constantly being played, and it's a great record. I mean, I played this so much that it's something that I don't necessarily reach for so much anymore, but it is just, song after song is just awesome. These are some ticket stubs. I went to see them that year at the Palace in Hollywood on April 26th in 1997, and then later that summer I saw them on the band's Warped Tour. They were headlining. But this, aside from The Impression I Get, you get Rascal King, Noise Brigade, Royal Oil, Let's Face It, the title track, Numbered Days, Never Mind Me, 128. Just, this is an awesome album. Then I didn't pick this up until only a few years ago, maybe like 4 years ago, but they put out a live album, Live from the Middle East. And the Middle East, if you're familiar with the Middle East, if you're from that area, or if you're familiar with that place, I know it was pretty popular venue up there. And I don't know if it was closing and they were playing like a closing show or something. For some reason I thought that there was something around the Middle East that was tied to this, that like the place was going to close, and they played like some farewell shows there. Maybe that happened. Maybe that has nothing to do with this album. Maybe that happened later. I don't really remember. But this is a live record. They follow up, Let's Face It with a live album. Bands do that sometimes. I always find that kind of odd. It just seems, I don't know, it just seems like a weird thing to do, to have the biggest hit of your career and to follow it up with like a live album or something. Just always seems odd. I mean, again, you don't want to like jump into the studio too quick and put something out that just isn't up to, par or whatever. But I don't know, just a little odd. But I've listened to this a couple of times. It's all right. It's not a bad live record, but not essential, I would say. So their follow-up to Let's Face It, finally, the studio album, is called Pay Attention. And this is where it sounds like a little more polished, a little, I don't know, there's, it's a little less of that hardcore punk sound, a little more ska, third wave ska influenced, a little more pop sounding kind of stuff. But it's a good record. There's a lot of good tunes on here. Let Me Be is really good. All Things Considered, So Sad to Say was a single, and I probably did okay, because it sounds like something right off of Let's Face It. She Just Happened, really good. Ride on Broad Street is really good. Bad News and Bad Breaks, Temporary Trip is really good. The Day He Didn't Die is also really good. Yeah, good album. I think, if I remember correctly, when this came out, I didn't pick it up right away. Because it had been a couple of years, right? What this, 2000, so it had been like 3 years, and I don't know, just didn't rush out to buy it, but I did pick it up maybe a year later or something like that, and kind of was like, I should have picked it up. It is a good record. Anything I might have thought was not the case. It was a good album. But then after that, they put out a Jackknife to a Swan, and this record, I need to give it a few more listens. It never really clicked with me. There's another ticket stub. I saw them play in 2008 with the Dropkick Murphys. But always still a good live band. But this album, I don't know, just didn't really, do much for me. I wasn't that crazy about it. And as what I can remember, this is after this record is when they kind of decided to take a hiatus and go their separate ways. And a handful of years goes by, and they regroup, put out I think they put out like a B-sides record, and then put out a couple of new records, I think 3 or 4 before they called it a day recently. And I don't have any of those albums. I've heard a couple of tunes from them here and there, but nothing that made me really want to run out and pick any of them up. But I don't know, maybe one of these days, if I ever come across them someplace and the price is decent, I'd maybe pick them up just out of curiosity. But I'm not that familiar with them all. If you are, let me know if any of those later records are worth picking up. But that's it. That is all of my Mighty Mighty Bosstones collection. There they all is. Let me know what you think of the band, if you ever saw them live, what you think, your favorite records, songs, whatever. Be cool to hear. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you another time later on, y'all.